in stained glass windows actually have meanings. And depending on the time of day, the colors actually change. I didn't realize this until I woke up in a bedroom that had stained glass windows. You see, I live in a very old church in a small town in Delaware. It was never part of the plan to buy a church. In fact, the first time I was there, I went up into the choir loft and noticed that there was a crawl space. So I took my phone and I took a picture into the darkness, and there it was. The original facade from the 1882 church that had been covered by a drop ceiling for years. There was even a bell tower that was still sealed up and had been sealed for decades. So as we peeled back the layers of this old church, we found all sorts of clues to its history. For example, there was a brick chimney that was above the ceiling hanging out over open space. There must have been a wood-burning stove or something in the church in the past. We also found ornate oil lamps, and we found collection baskets. We found the original ends of the altar from the 1800s. We even found the original front window still held together by wooden pegs in perfect condition. Now today, that window is back where it belongs. The altar and the lectern, we donated that to the Historic Society, and the little room in the bell tower, it's my favorite place to drink coffee and listen to the birds. So what we uncovered in the process was more than a century of clues to people who worshiped at this church, who were born and baptized, who loved and were married there. Their lives mattered, but very little was documented. I mean, what we do know is that it was built by former slaves just after the Civil War in a state that refused to recognize the abolition of slavery until the 1900s. But they were marginalized, yet extremely resilient. So in the 1920s, the church, there was a fire. And at that time, there were many black churches used as schools, and so they were burnt to the ground. In this place, they took the burnt wood and reused it to make the church even bigger. So fast forward, we sprayed in the insulation, and we invited people from the whole community to come in and see our progress. We handed out Sharpies, and they covered the walls with love notes. So let me tell you a little bit about what I learned about myself in this process. The guy on the right, that's my dad. I've spent a lot of time in church. In fact, I used to work for the Catholic Church. I'll never forget talking to Sister Sharon one day. She called and asked if I would run a statewide political campaign to define marriage as being between a man and a woman. I didn't know what to say, so I made up something, got off the phone. To this day, I'm mortified that I lied to a nun. But you know, the truth matters. And the truth is, I am happily married to a woman. My wife, Maggie, is one of the most amazing people I've ever met. She's devoted her entire life to social justice, and I am blessed to be with her. God knows everything, and God has always known that I'm gay. I have lied for years in order to make other people comfortable. But isn't it a basic precept of Christianity that the truth will set you free? So Proposition 8, which prohibited gay marriage in California, which is where most of my family lives, when it was being heard, my son took time off from work to stand in front of the Supreme Court and hold up this sign. What's more amazing is he wasn't that surprised when I came out, but when we told him we were putting the master bedroom where the altar used to be, he freaked out. He freaked out. But you know, much like the time of the era in which my church, my home was built, sometimes it feels like my family is still in its own civil war. One of my brothers told me I don't belong at my father's funeral. One of my sisters still says I'm not going to heaven. I mean, look, we didn't buy a church to be righteous. We bought it so that love would have a place to thrive. And in fact, thanks to this building, I don't have to die to find my way to heaven. I mean, isn't that what church is all about? It's not about predicting who's going to go to hell. It's about helping everyone find their way to love, loving and valuing everyone. I mean, it's transformational. Much like the way stained glass windows take ordinary light and give it meaning. Purple stands for justice. Green is joy and victory over ignorance. And white is for peace.